Hello everyone, I'm Sylvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel and welcome to February Fever, an epic tarot and oracle decks haul. So this is a new series that I'm starting on my channel when at the end of the month I'll be talking about the tarot and oracle decks that I bought and used. And we'll have a look at books, we have a look at stationery and at other hopefully interesting stuff. And also I'll give you a bit of an overview of what my personal practice related to tarot during the month has been. So February has been the month of my birthday, so as a matter of fact I asked all of my friends to just buy me a voucher, and with those vouchers I really went overboard with tarot and oracle decks and other stuff. So this is going to be a very long video. I hope you have a nice cup of coffee with you. I hope that you're going to stay with me till the end. I think it's going to be quite fun to watch. Okay, so I thought I'll start with the tarot or oracle decks that I've either received for my birthday as a gift or the ones that I bought for myself. So this is the Cursed Auguries, and by the way, there's no specific order. This tarot, I actually bought it from Anasora's Etsy shop, and it got here in February. It took a while because there were some shipping problems, but I am quite happy that I finally got it. I think I featured this tarot deck in a couple of videos already. Now I'm going to go pretty quickly because there's, well, I think there's over 20 decks that I'm going to show you today, and I just don't want to stay here for hours because we're all busy, but it's so much fun to show you these decks. I'm sure you know this deck already. It's got a couple of quite interesting cards, let's say. I have been using it a fair bit and I do recognize its value. I recognize that I already found a very specific spot for this deck in my personal practice. And I am quite grateful that I had the opportunity to buy it. It's a peepish deck, as you can see, but the majors are very, very interesting. The quote cards are very interesting as well. It's a really good quality. It's a linen, it's your good quality linen cardstock. And the colors are very nice and consistent throughout the suits. And it's got these really beautiful cards, you know, together with some confronting cards as well. So this is the Cursed Auguries by Anasora. Another deck that I got this month is the Secrets of Paradise Tarot, inspired by Caribbean and Latin American culture and mysticism. The artwork is by Laura Bello and the tarot is by Leticia Ferrer Rivera. This deck is, so there's a story behind it. I purchased it for a very reasonable price from Amazon. I have been to Central America several times, well, mostly for travel, although I did stop here and there to do the typical stuff that a tourist would do. I really enjoy the Central America and Latin American culture. My mom's family, part of my mom's family migrated to Latin America after the Second World War, so I feel like I have family. I know I have family over there. And I've always been incredibly interested in the culture and the art and the literature, and I've always felt called by this beautiful part of the world. When I saw this deck, I looked at a couple of samples that they give you, you know, on the usual Amazon ad, and I thought I really wanted to see it for myself. When I got it, I have to be honest, 1000%. I was a bit disappointed, first of all, because as you can see, it's a very glossy finish. It catches the light and it's very slippery. The cards tend to run away from me. Maybe it's a sign. Another thing that I'm not let's say 100% convinced about is the fact that some core cards are renamed, but not all of them. So you'll have your queens and kings, but sometimes you have dames, sometimes you have princesses. So to make it all clear, I just separated all the core cards. Let's have a look. We've got, for the suit of wands, we got page and knight and queen and king, which is pretty traditional. But then for the suit of cups, instead of the page, we got princess, but then we go back to traditional knight, queen and king. And then for the suit of swords, we again have princess instead of page, but then we have dame instead of knight, queen and king. And for the suit of pentacle, we've got princess, dame, queen and king. So there is not one single suit that has, let's say, no two suits are alike, let's put it this way. I appreciate the explanation in the booklet. It's basically because the author looks at the energy of these cards regardless of the gender, which is fantastic. However, I would have probably felt more comfortable with a consistent set of core cards throughout the whole deck. Having said that, I have been working with this deck and I find it quite easy to get into the system. I didn't really have any problem. It is a very beautiful deck. It does feel like, you know, taking a tour into the beautiful countries of Central and South America. It does have all these references, for example, in the guidebook, which is always very interesting to read. And it's a really straight shooter. So overall, I think that I can live with the core cards with different names. It's really not that big of a deal for me. The cardstock, because I am a bit of a cardstock fanatic, is probably a bit of an issue, but so be it. It is very easy to shuffle and it's very easy to fan out because of how glossy it is. So this is the Secrets of Paradise Tarot by Letizia Ferrer-Rivera. And the Tarot of the Bohemian Secrets by the photographer Alice Smates. I think I said that she was German, but my apologies, she was actually born in Belgium. So this tarot deck is the fruit of cooperation between the photographer Alex and the Artiste Resistance, which is an art collective from Port-au-Prince in Haiti. So this deck is absolutely gorgeous. I find it incredible. The artist collaborated with the photographer in such a way that they took her in the slums. They gathered all the props that they can find. They discussed all the way in which prepare the layout of the cards in such a way that we have let's say a wink to the traditional RWS system, as you can see. But it's in a very original way because it is using everything that they could find in the places where they were taking the photos. And I'm really enjoying this tarot. It's actually a very good tarot deck. It reads really well. I do some special work with it. In particular, I actually use it with the Dash-Doula Oracle. For, let's say, soul kind of working, soul healing kind of work, and it's just a charm. It works like a charm. It's amazing. I think it's still on sale. I don't know how much availability there is, but as always, I will just put the link to the website in the description box below. So this is the Tarot of Bohemian Secrets by Alice Smates. And the Spacious Tarots has come back to my collection. I used to have this deck a while ago, but then I purchased the Earthly Souls and Spirit Moon Oracle, and I just got this tarot back because it pairs so well. I've shown that in one of my recent videos. I think it's a joy to use. This deck is absolutely beautiful. It's got one of my favorite combination of colors. It's only got landscape, let's say, and very few animals in the deck. There's no humans. which makes it a very good tarot to use for client readings, for example. But as I said, I really like to use it in combination with a few oracle decks. I just really enjoy this tarot. I find some of the cards are just work of art. They are absolutely beautiful, and it's a joy to have it back in my collection, to be honest with you. I don't know why at a certain point, it must have been like a couple of years ago, I just gave it to someone else, because I don't think this time it's gonna go anywhere. It's just very, very safe in my collection. This is the Spacious Tarot by Carrie Mullen. And the Yes and Gisela Tarot, this is a recent reprint of an out-of-print deck which was called Tarot of the Third Millennium by the same author, Yasen Yuslev. This tarot is absolutely superb. It's, as I've said a couple of times before, it's actually one of those decks that feels like a collector's item. It's majors only, it's black and white, but it's a very fine brush strokes, and actually it's more like a pencil stroke, I would say, in this case. It's achieving a depth of field thanks to shading on the artwork, on the graphics. It is outstanding. The craft, it's just, you can see everything in the card. You can tell the perspective. You have 3D, you have depth of field, you have emotions in the characters. I honestly, this is obviously a great artist, and even though it does feel like a collector's item, so not necessarily to be used, you know, as a reading tarot, however, it is so beautiful and it's such a good reader that I have no problems in using it. As a matter of fact, it pairs up really, really well with any kind of moon phase oracle deck. And that's why I use it in combination with the different moon phases. It's a very, very good reader when it comes to this kind of reading. The energies are very strong. So this is the Yasen Yuslev Tarot. And the Naked Heart Tarot by Gillian C. Wilde. Now, I used to have the first edition of this tarot deck, and for a long time I didn't want to buy the further editions, so the second or the third one. This is the third edition, but then I read that there have been some substantial changes into the third edition, and that's why I got it, and I couldn't be happier. It's got the same kind of vibe of the first edition, but it is more clear. It feels like the tactile feeling of this deck are fantastic. It's one of my favorite cardstock. It's that kind of matte that you know, makes a swooshing sound when you rub the cards together. It fans out really well, doesn't have any clumping problems. I just really enjoy this deck. It's kind of pippish, but it's a kind of pippish that still gives you a lot to talk about. It's mostly an animal deck, which I really like. I like animal decks. And it's just, the color combination is amazing. We got the elements of the suits in black and white, but then you got cut splashes of colors when it comes to the animals associated to the cards. And I really appreciate all the symbols that have been used. It's a very elemental tarot, as you can see. I think it's actually going out of print, so I think the third edition is going to be the last one, and I don't know about its availability, but you know, as usual, description box below there'll be a link. So this is the Naked Heart Tarot by Gillian C. Wilde. And the Heroine Tarot. I've talked about this deck, so I'm not going to you know, do another deep dive. I'm not going to spend a long time on this deck. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is the portrait of a lot of really, really beautiful subjects. they look like models, and that's the actual intent of this deck. So it is portraying beautiful people wearing couture clothes, and that's the theme of the deck. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It just, because of that reason, it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't been using this deck, even though I've quietly just very recently, probably 3 weeks ago or something, I just cannot really find a specific use for it. I don't identify myself into the characters, which is not a big deal, because whenever there's an animal deck, for example, I cannot possibly identify myself with an animal, or not all these animals on the deck. However, I still use them. It's just a matter for me to understand how best to honor the energy of this deck and finding the proper way to use it. And I am very peaceful with my choices in the case that it will not find, you know, its space, it's a specific space in my practice, then I will really happily give it to someone that will honor it and appreciate it. So this one is the Heroine Tarot by Gina Schiappacasse. And the Macabre Tarot is part of my tarot haul for February. Even though I used to have this deck before, there was a bit of an issue for me when it comes to using it because of also the renaming of the court cards. However, I have to say that the difference between this deck and the Secrets of Paradise Tarot is that at least the names are consistent throughout the whole deck. And once you memorize them, it's actually quite easy to remember them. I repurchased this deck after I watched a video from Simon at the Hermit's Cave. He gave a walkthrough, and I don't know, I just remember by watching this video, I just remember how much I actually appreciate Sam Rook's art. She is absolutely fantastic, and I love all of her decks, and this is probably one of my favorite when it comes to the artwork. It's the Macabre Tarot, so obviously people will use it during the darker months. However, I do find that it's an excellent reader throughout the year, and I do love to pair it with a few oracle decks, which is something that is always a bit of a plus for me when deciding how much I love a tarot. So this is the Macabre Tarot. And last but not least, this is the Millennial Tarot that I received this morning. Every other deck that I got this month was actually an oracle, so this is the last of the tarot decks. However, this is a present from my husband for my birthday. I thought this deck would have been so much fun. I haven't had time to go to really have a look at it. It's I will definitely, you know, take my time. It comes with a card with a couple of spreads, which is always very interesting. I have seen this tarot on many platforms, social media platform, and let's see if I can zoom out a bit. And because it's rather large, by the way, and I immediately fell in love with it. It's just the renaming of the cards is fantastic, but see, it makes it also easy for us to understand the connections, because it not only gives you the number but also the traditional name of the card, and then it gives you the rename, the substitute name for the card. And also it's very interesting because it gives you a bit of a sentence at the bottom of the cards, for example with the Lovers, and in this case it's called the Tinderists, and the sentence is gaining partners along the way. It's obviously very interesting to me. As I say quite often, I'm always very fascinated by the way a creator expresses their choices in the cards, especially when it comes to you know, strong choices, confrontational choices at times. It's always fantastic to have a look at the creative process. and it makes me appreciate the deck more. It makes me feel like I'm closer to the tarot. It makes the bonding process a lot easier, a lot quicker as well. Some tarot decks just come with no information whatsoever, which is really I do believe that it's really a pity whenever, not necessarily because there's no guidebook, but because there's absolutely no imprint, you know, from the creator. You just have a tarot, there's a lot of choices when it comes to the cards, but you have no feel for what was going on in the mind of the artist whenever they pick that particular image to correspond to that particular meaning of the card. We all know how to read tarot, and I don't need another RWS clone, even though I do have so many. But what's interesting to me is when I see something different, and this tarot deck, let me tell you, it's a pleasure to look at. It's the kind of color palette that I really adore. It's the artwork, which is a bit noir, which is something that I really enjoy, but also especially the key, let's call them the keywords, and the messages at the bottom make it such an interactive kind of experience. And I can't wait to have more time to do a deep dive into this deck, which is the Millennial Tarot. And now let's have a look at the Oracle decks that I received this month. This is the Amethyst Oracle. I recently showed it in one of my videos. It is one of my underdog decks because I hesitated for so long to get this Oracle, because I really thought that it was a bit, I don't know, I felt like it was a bit too simple, like the images were a bit too simple, they were not evocative enough for me. But it actually works really well. It's not simple at all. As a matter of fact, it's got layer upon layer of meanings. Even though there is no booklet, it's the way in which it taps into my intuition that makes it such an interesting deck. And it's a deck that I love to pair up with different tarot decks. But let me tell you, even working with this Oracle on its own, it's very rewarding. I am so very grateful that I finally convinced myself to get it. This is the Amethyst Oracle by Jessica Bott. And the Wandering Soul Oracle by Rachel G, which is our own fellow Aussie from Melbourne. This deck is amazing. She's actually, I think she currently has a promotion on her Etsy shop. I'll make sure to put the link in the description box below, as always. This deck is absolutely beautiful. I love the artwork. It's a black and white deck, but as you can see, it does reach that kind of depth of field that you can get with using the shading. In this case, she uses tiny dots to achieve that kind of shading, which is it's actually a very historically famous technique. There was a whole movement of artists that was using this kind of technique. I just know the name in Italian, so I'm not gonna try and say it in English, but it is very interesting. I really find this deck very useful whenever I read it in combination with a few tarot decks, because it brings out some nuance on the tarot cards that I was actually not expecting. So as a matter of fact, I'm using it not on its own, but I'm pairing it up with tarot, which is absolutely fine. I just really like to find the proper way to honor a deck, whether it's because it's used in combination with the Oracle and tarot decks, or used on its own, it doesn't matter. But the most important thing is that I feel that I'm actually using it to the best of its possibilities. So this is the Wandering Soul Oracle by Rachel G. Now this Oracle deck is very famous, let's say, in the French-speaking world. It's the Oracle d'un Cas, and by Stéphanie Abeyan and illustrated by Anaïs Toutain. It's famous because it's got a very specific work. It can be used for two specific type of work. At least that's the way I use it. I use it for in my self-care practice. and I use it for clients whenever I see that they need to identify some spaces, some areas of concern in their personal space and in their lives, and they need to do some kind of work on them. But in order in order to understand what kind of work needs to be done, you primarily need to identify the roots of the problem. And this oracle is absolutely fantastic because of that. As you can see, the cards are divided in colors. So there's this orange, there's this kind of pink, I would say, which is the bulk of the deck. And then there's also a few purple cards. And it's the way it's divided, it looks into the problem at hand, let's go this way, the roots of the problem, so the causes of the problem, and then it gives some kind of advice on how to proceed in overcoming that problem. It is a very, very interesting deck, and just to give you a small example, I will show you the cards. By the way, the production value is really good. It's I bought it on Amazon, so it's a mass market deck, but as you can see, it's gilded. It's a high quality gilding. The cards are have a glossy finish, but that's okay. So as you can see, for example, this card talks about the traumatic experiences in your adult life, and this card talks about the transgenerational line, so an ancestry line, and this card talks about the past lives, and so on and so forth. And these are basically useful in identifying the way in which we live the problem, the way in which we live the issue. Then when you come to the second category, you also see some kind of patterning. For example, this card talks about repeated injustice, traumatic passing, treason, emotional shock, inaction, physical aggression. As you can see, it's French, but it's very easy to understand, you know, because of some words coming from Latin will be similar between French and English, so that would not be a problem to understand, to read the cards. When it comes to the booklet, I do recommend at least using Google Translate, unless you speak French. In that case, go for it. And these cards are actually what I was talking about. So in this card, you actually see some kind of advice to overcome the problem. So in this case, focus on your respiration, meditation, take an energetic shower, use some crystal therapy, or focus on healing your chakras, etc., etc. I think it's a very useful deck for this kind of work. As a matter of fact, I haven't been able to find a deck that can replace this one in English. So it would be very interesting to see whether one day they'll translate this deck in English as well. It's got several other, let's say, expansion packs. So whenever you want to focus more, for example, on one issue or another, you can buy the expansion pack. For example, let's say that you identify your issue mostly being related to your transgenerational line, so your ancestors. In that case, you do find the right expansion pack to use. I really love using this deck in several readings for my clients that I do, and I always have a lot of positive feedbacks from clients as well. I think that it's because it's a very deep deck, but it's also it goes to the core of the matter without many frills. It's very direct, it's a sharpshooter, but it's also not a traumatic or a confrontational kind of deck. So this is the Oracle d'Anka by Stephanie Abelin. I'm sure you all have seen this deck. Is the Earthly Souls and Spirits Moon Oracle by Terry Foss. This is the Mass Market edition published by US Games. I used to have this deck in an indie edition, but for some reason I didn't really vibe with it. And then I saw a couple of walkthrough or comparison actually between the indie and the mass market edition. And I must say, I actually prefer the mass market. I mean, the quality is more or less the same. It's a really good quality. The vibrancy and the saturation of the cards is slightly, just a touch more intense, which makes it a very colorful kind of deck. As you can see, there's a bit of a, let's say, reorganization going on in the background when it comes to keywords. Some cards have the same image but a different keyword. I think this one is one of them, which is absolutely fine because I did not use the indie edition so much that I actually immediately jump, whenever I see a card, I jump to the original keyword from the indie edition. I really don't mind. I think that some cards are just absolutely gorgeous, like this one. I really enjoy using it. I use it on its own quite often, but I really like to pair it with some tarot cards as well. So this is the Earthly Souls and Spirit Moon Oracle by Terry Foss. And the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle by Lorianne Anderson and Juliet Diaz was also part of my collection before, and now it's come back. And the reason is that I just decided to set away my issues with using these decks in the correct, let's say the correct season, the correct time of the year. Because as I've said many times, living in Australia means that everything is upside down when it comes to seasons. And I just focus on the cards, the messages, but most of all I focus on the keywords, which are very interesting. I specifically use this one in spring, not necessarily because it is the right time of the year to use it, but because it does have that kind of a vibe to it. There's a lot of honey, there's a lot of bees. There's exactly that kind of energy that you want to use in a very specific, when you feel like even your mood is in a very specific place. It's a very beautiful deck. The production is really good. It's not too glossy. It still catches the light, but not too much. It still fans out really well. It's got that kind of gilded that is not my favorite, but I find that it's not hurting it's not slicing through my fingers, which is always a plus. And I really like the color palette. I like the images. Overall, it's a really cute deck. So this is the Seasons of the Witch Beltane Oracle. And the Solitary Witch Oracle by Lucy Cavendish is very new to my collection. As a matter of fact, I just bought it the day of my birthday because I found it for a very reasonable price at one of our retailers. I had a very quick flip through, but then I didn't have any time to spend with this deck, unfortunately, because I had so many. But it's beautiful so far. This is what I can tell you. The artwork is spectacular. It does have these borders, which are not my favorite, but I find that, to be honest, they're not that bad. The keywords, I would say, for example, in this card says she sleeps with the stars, which is, it's very nice, but not necessarily evocative or something. I do need to have a look at the guidebook and try and have a read and understand what the reference is. This is a typical witchy deck. There's no two ways around that, which is absolutely fine. I actually really enjoy these decks. However, it could become a bit of a problem when it's not resonating, when the keywords are not evocative, even though the images I can tell even right now that they really are. So it's something that I'm really excited about because it's a deck that I will have to discover. I will have to take my time with it, and I will have to see you know, again, exactly where in my practice I can find the right spot for it. So this is the Solitary Witch Oracle by Lucy Cavendish. And another oracle deck that I was so very happy to find on the day of my birthday is the Dia de los Muertos Oracle, Wisdom from the Departed Beloved. This is by Kelly Sullivan Walden, and the artwork is by Emily K. Grives de Reyes Gontla. Now this deck goes so well with so many of my decks because I really do enjoy this culture. And it's just amazing with the Deserts Illumination Tarot, for example, but it also pairs really well with the Santa Muerte, as you can imagine, because it's thematically very, very close. Now, as you can see, the cards are amazing. There's this explosion of colors, and it's the typical objects and iconography and symbols you will find during the celebration of the Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, which is a massive, massive festival, you know, in the Latin culture. It's not just Latin American. I have to say that in Italy, the Day of the Dead is very important as well. You got Frida as well, of course. It is very beautiful. I am not a massive fan of these borders, so I was eventually considering just trimming it down. It's a very affordable deck. It's really not, you know, and it's not, I wouldn't feel really bad in trimming off the borders on a deck like this because it is mass market. It's actually been published by Blue Angel. It's a very affordable price, so if I mess it up, I can just as easily buy another copy. But I do believe that this deck would actually profit from, you know, trimming it down to the artwork, obviously keeping the keywords in there as well. So this deck is a lot of fun to look at. The guidebook is a lot of fun to read. But it's also a very straight deck, and it tells you, you know, it tells you things the way you need to hear them. So this is the Dia de los Muertos Oracle. And the Southern Oracle, this is also a new acquisition in my collection. I actually had no idea about this oracle until I found it for sale for a very zero price in one of the Facebook pages I'm a member of. So basically this oracle is made of cards that have an image, that they have a number, and then they have a saying, and this saying is, apparently these are all idiomatic sentences that you will use in the southern states of the US. And since I said many times before that I absolutely adore the southern part of the US, I have been there several times. I am in love with the culture, and I love all the tarot decks that have been produced there. For example, the Mesquite or the Desert Illuminations, the Delta Enduring. I really do feel at one with this culture, and I thought that it would have been very interesting to have a look at this deck. A card that says there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's a bit, to me, I love animals, so it's like, but it's very interesting to have a look at what it actually means. So it's a breakthrough, it's a solution, originality, receptivity, faith. I really enjoy having a look at this deck, even though I haven't necessarily found a use for it. I feel like it's more like some kind of a way to bond with the culture, which is absolutely fine. And as I said, it was a very reasonable price, although it is an indie deck, and I think that it might even be out of print at the moment. However, I will, if I find it, I will find the link in the description box below if you're interested. My apologies for the noises in the background. It's a very ugly day today in Sydney. We've had a lot of rain and, you know, summer storms, so there might be some thunder, some striking in the background. I'll try and keep the audio as clean as possible. So this is the Southern Oracle, and the art is by Kate Pavak. And the Dark Mirror, this oracle by Laura Sava, it's very, very dark and really juicy, as you know that I always refer to my dark decks. I really enjoy using it, and not necessarily during the darker months. As a matter of fact, this entered my collection only a couple of weeks ago, because I had a look at it before. I wasn't convinced because of the borders, but then I had the opportunity to see it and to hold it in my own hands because a friend of mine has it. And I had a look at the guidebook and I really felt like I needed this deck. And it's, again, it's a mass market deck. It has been published by, I think it's Oster, and it's again a very reasonable price. What I do have to say about this deck is that sometimes the emotion or the reaction that I have while looking at these cards, which by the way show you the moon phase as well, which is quite interesting, is not necessarily related, or it doesn't necessarily match for me with the title at the bottom. In some cases absolutely, in some others I do need to look at the guidebook, which is not a problem. As a matter of fact, I would have done it anyway because I really do like to see what the author was thinking. However, there's something that I have to say about the guidebook as well. I have the impression that the English part of the guidebook has been translated by AI, and I might be completely wrong and it might be a mistake, and if it is, I apologize, but the English translation doesn't make much sense to me. So what I do, I actually go back and forth between the English translation and the Italian writing. I believe that this deck has been written in Italian. The guidebook has been written in Italian, and after that it has been translated in English, and sometimes there's a bit of a lost in translation that happens every now and then. So I do like to go back and forth between the two parts of the guidebook, and it does help me understand more of the perspective that is going on in the cards. This is the Dark Mirror Oracle by Riccardo Minetti and Laura Sava. And this is an oracle that I've been using so much ever since I got it. This is a fantastic oracle. It's a French one, it's Or et Ombre, and it's the Oracle d'Alchimie Lunaire by Stephanie Lafranc. Now, and Vic, in this deck for the first time in the Waves of Your Soul channel, which I adore. I really enjoy having a look at the French tarot world, the French tarot community. I find it fascinating that you know, they of course they have the same tarot and oracle decks that we might have in the English world, but they have other oracles and tarot decks that have actually not been translated from French into English, and this is one of them, and this is actually very useful. And I hope that sooner or later there will be a publisher, an English publisher, that picks it up, because it's absolutely a joy to use. First of all, let me show you the backs. I mean, look at these backs, they're absolutely brilliant. There is a little bit of that holographic rainbow here, and there's a bit of embossing on the hands. I love the fact that we've got closed eyelids and open eyelids on the hands here. It's got that kind of gold matte gilding, which I really like because it's high quality, it doesn't chip very easily and doesn't hurt your fingers. And this deck is amazing and the artwork is fantastic. I love the color palette, I love everything about it. And now it started raining, and I hope that it's not going to be too loud. So this deck is very interesting. I use it almost exclusively in relation to moon phases, whenever there's a time in which I want to do a deep introspection, for example, I use this deck. And at the same time, it's I believe it's one of the decks that I enjoy using with the Solar Occulto Tarot, because it does remind me, there's echoes and resonances between the color palette and the line work, for example. I love everything about this deck. I am so grateful to the Waves of Your Soul that I actually saw it in her channel, because I wouldn't have known about this deck, so it's absolutely a joy to have. It's Ors and Ombre, Oracle d'Alchimie Lunaire. I've talked about the Literary Witches before. It's a beautiful deck. I now have it in my collection because I really like to use it in combination with the Poe Tarot, and it looks like it's an excellent deck when it comes to creative writing. So it pairs really well. It's a match made in heaven, not just because of the color palette, which is it matches really well, and the artwork is very similar. I do appreciate the fact that there's not just the image and the name of the author, but also a keyword associated to the author. And as I said before in my channel, I used to have this deck, and then because I couldn't really find a specific use for it, especially when it comes to these cards, as you can see here, I rehomed it because I really didn't see, I didn't feel like I could find the right way to use them. However, now I actually pair it with the Pot Tarot, and it's absolutely brilliant for creative writing work. And as a writer myself, I really always appreciate these kind of exercises that I can do with this deck. So this is the Literally Witch's Oracle. And the last couple of Oracle decks, this is the Earth and Born by Syrian Shadow. I've talked about this deck before. I was kind of defending it because I had seen a, let's say, a not so positive review of this deck in a YouTube channel. I adore the artwork of this deck. It's just absolutely superb. However, I have to say that after I kind of talked about this deck in a positive way, let's see, I do recognize that it's not an easy deck to use because of the images being so dark. And in here I've got, you know, the LED lights, and it's still very difficult to see the details of the deck. Through the camera lens it's slightly easier, but by the naked eye it's actually almost impossible to see anything. You only see a splash of color here, a splash of color here, and you kind of see that there's a skull there, and that's about it. It's such a pity because this deck is gorgeous. The artwork is amazing. I love skulls. There's not two ways around that. It's my vibe. And I am so sorry, but I have to say, I thought I could find a way to use bright lights and everything. If all the cards had this much of a brightness, I would be totally okay with it. But as you can see, this one, it's practically, you can't tell anything. And this one neither. It's such a pity. It's such a pity. This would be such an interesting deck to use because it's got really interesting images, it's got key titles, it's got keywords. I don't know. It's so difficult. I don't know. It's in my purgatory shelf. Let's put it this way. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with this deck. In any case, it's the Earth and Born Oracle cards by Syrian Shadow. And last but not least, we've got the Earth Power Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. This is a very beautiful deck. However, it was a bit of a mistake. I don't know why, but I thought that it was a different deck, and when I got it, I just realized that it wasn't the one I wanted to buy. I still don't know what I want to do with this deck. The artwork is fantastic. I really love the places, all of the places, whether I have been there before or I plan to go there. They do hold memories for me. It's really, to me, it's kind of becoming a good mood deck because I love traveling so much. It kind of defines my personality. And this is your typical traveler kind of deck. I am not entirely sure because as you can see, it's super glossy and it's very sticky. So the cards actually stick together. I understand that it's the kind of deck that you need to use a lot, and once you use it a lot, then there won't be that problem of sticking together. However, I don't see myself using it as much as I should in order to, you know, overcome the problem of the cards sticking together. So I'm not so sure what I want to do with this deck. What I do know is that it is absolutely beautiful. The guidebook is fantastic, and I know that there will also be a space for travel related decks in my practice, so I think I'm gonna have to keep it. So this is the Archetypal Oracle by Stacy DeMarco. So this month I also got my first set of runes. It's an incredibly affordable, very, very cheap set of runes that I found on Amazon. They are kind of cute. It's a very low budget production. As you can see, it's one of those pebbles, colored pebbles, and then someone with you know, a permanent marker. They just wrote the runes on top of it. These are not by any means not chiseled or anything, so if you use them like I have, for example, you will see that the permanent marker is not so permanent because it's starting to chip away, which is obviously a bit of a problem, but I needed to start somewhere, and I really, really enjoy this one. Blue is my favorite color, so obviously I was looking for something that would have made me feel happy to use it. I really like it. I know it's not gonna last for long. It's starting already to disappear, so obviously I will have to move to a more expensive deck, but you know, to start I need to start somewhere, as I said, and I just saw this one on Amazon one day and I was like, well, you know what, I'm just gonna grab it. Let's see how it works. The guidebook is minimal, but I just wanted to get into this new system for me, and although I am familiar with Norse mythology, I never necessarily studied runes, ancient runes, as a method of divination, and I always I love studying, and I thought this was going to be a good thing to start this year, and so that's the reason why I got it, and I'm actually quite happy because it's kind of cute. And now let's have a look at a couple of books. I am an avid reader. I really like studying, but I also like to read. I'm a writer, so I write fiction, and I like to read fiction. So one of my favorite authors is Haruki Murakami. I have all of his books, and but I just discovered that I didn't have this one. It's called Desire, and it's published by Vintage Me. I'm looking forward to read this book. It's new in my collection. I haven't had the opportunity to go through it. I know that I love everything he writes, so I'm pretty sure that I will enjoy this one as well. Then I'm also very excited about the Egyptian Myths, A Guide to the Ancient Gods and Legends by Gary J. Shaw. I bought this book last year when I went to London to the British Museum, and I bought a number of books, and to be honest with you, I did not have time to go through all of them. I had briefly started studying hieroglyphs as well, which is always kind of fun for me. I like to keep my my intellect and my mind stimulated by studying new stuff. And I'm also very, very interested in Egyptian culture, but especially in Egyptian myths, because I have spent a month in Egypt last July and August. So when I went there, I was really interested in knowing everything that I remember from reading tarot, for example, and it was very interesting to confront my knowledge, or the knowledge that comes from knowing tarot, with the actual myths that are there. I received for my birthday a voucher from Amazon, and I bought a couple of decks, and I bought a couple of books as well. So because I watched the movie The Whale with Brendan Fraser recently, I remembered how much I loved the book Moby Dick. I won't give any spoiler, so let's say that it just reminded me about this book. There is a part of the movie that refers to this book. That's all I'm gonna say. And I just wanted to buy it because I originally read it in the Italian translation, and I never read it in the English original. So I thought to myself, I really need to do this, and I love these editions. It's a very specific one. It's called Word Cloud Classics, published in San Diego. It's a kind of a fake leather, but it's very soft, it's very beautiful, and the titles and all the writings are embossed, so it's a very beautiful tactile experience. Blue is my favorite color as well. It's a very again, the tactile experience of the page is very fulfilling, very rewarding. It's not too small, so I can read it without reading glasses, which, you know, nowadays is always a plus. It's a big book, as you can see, over almost 600 pages, but I read it before. It's a beautiful book, and I'm really looking forward to start reading this again. And then last but not least, this book is absolutely fantastic. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it. It's called the Archetypal Tarot, What Your Birth Card Reveals About Your Personality, Path and Potential, and it's by Mary K. Greer. Now, this is looking at cards, and it's basically identifying for all 78 cards an archetype. Reading archetypes is incredibly interesting. It will really reinforce your knowledge of tarot. It will actually open up a world of possibilities. I do archetypal readings whenever it comes to Wheel of the Year readings, but sometimes I also like to read core cards as archetype for the archetypal energy. And this book is a fantastic way to deepen your knowledge of this way of reading tarot. I really, as I said, I highly recommend it. So when it comes to stationery this month, I wanted to start a book of spreads, and it refers to all of the spreads that I'm going through for all of my Tarot in the Times of series. And so I just started. Now, just disclaimer, I have the worst handwriting in the world, seriously, and it comes because of several injuries that I suffer on my fingers. And I will never show you my handwriting because I am very self-conscious of how ugly it is. But so I bought this one. It's from Disney. It's a very beautiful notebook. I love Mickey Mouse, and it's also soft leather-like, but not synthetic leather, let's say. It's lined. It's a very good kind of size. I really appreciate this size. It opens flat whenever you have to write, so you don't constantly have to strain your wrist in order to, you know, have it lay flat. And it's got a bit of a pocket at the end. I really enjoy it. So as I said, I'm just going to put all of the spreads in here. I'm going to collect them all. It's about 35 spreads referred to Tarot in the Times of. And once I'm done, I'm actually gonna, you know, put it in a digital form and produce a PDF that you guys can purchase from my website. I think that I have been requested a couple of times before to do this, and it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I hope it will take a few months, but I will let you know whenever it's ready if you're interested. So this is one of my purchase during the month of February when it comes to stationery, together with this ink. So I'm an ink fanatic. Let's see if I can zoom in. So this is by our very own Robert Oster. Robert Oster is a brand of fountain pen ink from Melbourne, if I'm correct. I simply adore anything that with a shade between blue and green, so everything teal related is by far my favorite color. This is called Carbon Fire 5263, and this is a swatch card. Let's see if I can show you. So this is basically the color with 1 or 2 passing. And it's absolutely beautiful. It dries up really well. I don't know if you use fountain pens. If you don't, you're probably getting really bored right now and you're skipping ahead, which is absolutely fine. But I mostly use fountain pens. One of my favorite ones so far is this Weekend. It's called Weekend Bonheur by Montblanc. And the reason why I'm using this one is because this year is the year of the star for me. Okay, I had to switch lens and now my hand is going to shake, but I really wanted to show you. So this particular fountain pen, as you can see on the nib, it's got some shooting stars. I don't know whether it's clear or not, I hope you can see it. Bonheur, it means, you know, the good times, so the lucky times. And I just felt like this pen would have been the right pen to use this year because it's the year of the star for me. I really enjoy it. It's very, very beautiful, and I have to take really good care of it because, as you can imagine, these pens are rather expensive. But I use it all the time. It's rather small because I have small hands, so I needed a smaller kind of pen. It's absolutely fantastic. The nib is between fine and a medium, but it is the kind of nib that you want to use for this kind of size pen. And with that, you know, ink by Oster is just absolutely superb. And another pen that I bought this month is this just ball pen by Carandash. And I just really like it. It's perfect. It's one of those pens that, you know, you put in your bag. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I really like the fact that it's this kind of white, because every time might be a very very unusual reason why I like this pen is because whenever I have a blue kind of nail polish or a bright red kind of polish, it stands out really. It stands out so much while I'm using this pen. I found it really funny. Anyway, well, this was it. This was my February fever, and this was an epic haul of tarot and oracle decks, and thank you so much if you stayed with me till the end. I hope you find this video interesting. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. More to come. Have a great day.